Well, I'm going to kick us off with British Steel and net zero, Belinda, because you look at that Port Talbot skyline. Once the fiery heart of industry, now shivering under the icy gaze of net zero. Look at that view. This steel giant, once the pride of Britain, now feels the cold slap of what I call, folks, betrayal. The Labour Party, who should be fighting for the grafters, are instead choking industry with their green noose. It's no longer about the Welsh dragon, it's about currying favour with eco-elites and the Davos crowd. A dizzying flip-flop that even Houdini wouldn't be able to attempt. And as for the Tories, well, don't get us started. They're Labour in sheep's clothing. They've turned this net zero folly into law, ignoring the devastation that it wreaks on places like Port Talbot. They parade their climate agenda like it's some noble crusade, but in reality, it's a slow-motion disaster, with Port Talbot the unwilling martyr. But here's the stinger, right? As global tensions simmer from Ukraine's fields to South China Sea, Britain is now dismantling its own defences. Key strategic industries, such as making steel, were practically gift-wrapping those industries and sending them off to coal-guzzling giants like China and India. The Tories and the Labour Party, they're intoxicated with these green fantasies. If you ask me, they've totally lost sight of a stark reality. It must be the fumes from these new vegan foods that they're trying, or something to that effect. Fairy tales of wind and the sun, right? You won't power a modern nation with those. You could cover Wales in windmills and solar panels, but even then, you wouldn't be able to produce a single steel beam. As we hurtle towards this 2050 target, the picture couldn't be clearer in my view. Britain is now sprinting towards a colder, poorer future and outright industrial surrender. It's not just our lights at risk of going out, but the extinguished spirit of the British working man. And for what? A nod from the green vested interests. It's utter madness dressed up as policy. Now, Benjamin Butterworth, the Labour Party, your lot, they want to do all of this faster and harder. They would love it if we closed more of these energy-intensive industries.
I mean, as lovely as it was to hear your sort of low-rent jokes about vegans, it really was not related to the fact of the matter, which is that the Tata Steel plant is not making a profit. It's making quite a serious loss and has done for some years. Now, you, as a supposed flag bearer for the free market, can hardly claim that the government should be giving more money to a business that loses money.
So
what they're doing,
that?
I've not finished. What they're doing is going from a coal-fuelled furnace to an electric-fuelled furnace, which, yes, is much better for the environment and needs fewer workers, but also more likely to be a sustainable business. I think the only reason you're opposing it is because you're just obsessed with dismissing anything green.
No, you can only do the second part of creating steel. You can't do the first part, which is actually using the iron ore and coal to create the steel beams. You cannot actually create steel through the electric furnace.
So to clarify, you think a business that is losing a considerable amount of money and shows no signs of that changing should be propped up by the taxpayer for the sake of it?
I think that we should
yes or no will do.
We should have cheap and plentiful energy in Britain. We are currently, France and Germany,
is that a yes or a no?
Pay far less for energy. That's the reason why it's not competitive and not actually able to make a profit, because of the energy bills that you hiked up, your lot, under Ed Miliband with the Climate Change Act back in 2008. So it started from there.
Darren, this is really nothing to do with net zero, and I actually think it's really despicable.
Oh yeah,
hold
energy
on.
bills going through the roof.
I think it is
Tell
despicable.
our viewers at home,
I
Alfie,
think
look them down the camera.
This is nothing to do. This is nothing to do
that their
with
energy
net
bills
zero.
are actually hunky-dory.
It is despicable that businesses are using the green agenda to essentially cut jobs and make more efficient business decisions. This, actually, Darren, is about capitalism, which is what Benjamin Butterworth was trying to say. You didn't answer the question. The only way that this Tata Steel plant could be profitable or in business is if the government subsidised it with subsidies. Is that what you think should happen?
It is doing.
But should it continue to do that?
But it's subsidising it by... It's giving
should it continue to have subsidies?
Yes,
it should continue to have subsidies.
Strategic industry should have subsidies.
All right, so that's fine. But the point is, this is not a profitable business. business. So the only way European and British
Because
steel can be
energy
profitable...
bills that your party have hiked up.
No.
Yes.
It's not because of energy bills.
Yes, it is.
It is because the cost of goods
So,
in the
Albie,
UK
please tell
is
me,
higher than in other parts of the world.
And other parts of the world, because of the fact that we are going hell for leather with this green.
Sorry, this is getting ridiculous. Net zero nutters are a sandwich short of a picnic. This is beyond lunacy. The reason it's so expensive, the reason why they're losing money is because they have to jump through forever expanding hurdles to meet the green zealotry list of things you have to do to be green. That's why they're going over to India.
Just to do with green.
No, but
it is
to do with green. You cannot say carte blanche. It's got nothing to do with the fact it's more expensive to produce anything in this country now and much cheaper to produce it in India.
But it has been for a very long time, Belinda.
Doesn't make it right, Albie.
I'm not saying it is
We are literally
right.
breaking the backs of the working class people in this country to fund a vanity project and hobby for the middle class people in Ivory Tower.
I couldn't agree more. Well said, Belinda. But Alex, I wonder then, if we look at the actual overall CO2 emissions of Britain, apparently Andrew Neil wrote in a column this morning that 1.5% of our overall CO2 emissions would be cut by the closure of this plant. 1.5%. Meanwhile, in 2023, China had its biggest coal output that it's ever seen. So what the hell are we saying to working class people in Wales? You're going to lose your job. Sod off. I don't care about you. But China, hunky-dory, happy days. We'll get our steel from over there at vast cost as far as CO2 emissions
you've just nailed it, Darren, because it is at a vast cost, not only to the environment, which is what everyone's banging on about with this net zero nonsense, but it's at vast cost to British workers. What party is standing up and saying we need to protect British industry? You know, at the same time, we've got a war in the Red Sea. Hang on, Albie. We've got a tax on shipping through the Red Sea at the moment, which is our main shipping lane. So we can't even guarantee that we'll be able to get these resources into Britain. Not only that, we're talking up a war at the moment around the world. This is an absolute crisis. And where is Rishi Sunak? Where is Keir Starmer? Where are the two men who are head-to-head to lead our country?
But
They're
you
nowhere
often
to be
talk
seen.
about
The Tories have
government
utterly
intervention, not
betrayed the
more.
working class people. They promised they would protect, and the working class people of this country in the Red Walls gave their votes to the Tories because they believed under Boris they would be given it.
It's like sitting next to Arthur Scargill. I mean, honestly, you would have sat here in the 1980s...
Margaret Thatcher would be turning in her grave.
Exactly,
at this
saying that Thatcher shouldn't have closed the mines.
Exactly.
The fact is... No, I'm speaking, Alex. You've had your moment. You've had your moment.
It's a different point in time, isn't it? We can't just say that the 1980s are the same as they are today. We are about to head into a bloody Third World War. I mean, let's wake up.
The world moves on. This is an inefficient business, and the way to guarantee some of those jobs staying is to move with the times, make it cleaner, make it more sustainable. And actually, when the government is paying hundreds of millions in perpetuity to keep this business going, then you don't have money for houses or for healthcare that needs to be helped by the government. Okay?
I don't get these arguments. They're so
You think that the taxpayer should pay for a failing business?
Do you think it's safe and wise for the UK to be the only country in the G20 who won't be able to produce steel from scratch? In terms of future conflict, in terms of being a self-sufficient nation, do you think it's wise to only focus on economics of today and not think forward to the future, that maybe we need to be self-sufficient in steel?
The flaw in your argument is that clearly we're not buying steel from Tata in Wales because it's too expensive. We're already getting it. We're already getting it from the rest. We're already getting it from the rest of the world. The question is whether you pay it out of taxpayers' pockets for a failing business. And I'm sorry, call me a Thatcherite, Belinda, but I think that's a bad idea.